I'm Marcy. Welcome back to the great outdoors. Today you don't need any special props, just your body and something to lay down on. You might want something to sit on for the very end when we do our closing. We're going to start by walking today. I'm going to ask you just to stand on your feet, and the invitation is to walk slowly, mindfully, feeling the movement of the legs in the hip sockets, feeling the movement of the hips as you walk. What we're trying to notice is whether our legs just move straight forward or whether there's a little bit of sass in our ass. We want that slight little movement going back and forth as we walk. But to be honest with you, most people just don't have that. Most people just have a very quiet hips and walk straight ahead, back and forth with their legs. And you may find that that's how your body works. That's fine, but we're trying to wake up that walking pattern in the body and to help you become more aware of how your body's moving. So after you do that little walk around, check in. Oh, little caterpillar. You can see that. I'm going to ask you to this. Just come and lie down on the ground. If you're able to, don't have the head propped at all. Just lie nice and long. And just let your body settle in. Allow your body to surrender to the gravity of the earth. Really allowing your body to sink in. Beautiful long red roots connecting with the earth below. Allowing the body to release and relax. Starting at the top of the head. Gently tuck the chin slightly below the forehead so the neck feels nice and long. Feel the skin around the skull relaxing. Notice how the neck is long and open and at ease. Feel the shoulders releasing to the ground below as the earth just draws out all the tensions and the strain in the body. Feel the face relax. Making sure that jaw is nice and loose. Feel the arms and hands sink in. Feel the backs of the shoulders release. The whole torso to let go and slide deeper. Allow the back of the hips to release and unwind. And the sacrum to open. Notice the pelvic floor. Allow that pelvic floor to loosen and relax. Feel the legs nice and long, releasing to the pull of gravity, letting go. Notice the feet gently rolling out away from each other, and how it feels when the legs are nice and long, relaxing and releasing. Even feel the soles of the feet letting go. Feel the breath in the body. Notice how the inhalation fills the entire skin of the body up, and the exhalation allows this all to release. And then 1 foot at a time, bring the soles of the feet to the mat. The feet are about a hip width apart. Press through the feet, allowing the bum to float up a little bit and come back down gently. Checking once again that the chin is slightly tucked. Checking the weight between the heels and the balls of the feet, making sure that they feel equally distributed. And then allow your body to begin a slow, long, gentle arches and flattens. Allowing the sit bone and the tailbone to roll forward in the body as the hips roll forward, drawing that lower back into an arch, as if there was a string lifting the belly button up towards the sky, and then releasing and rolling the hips in the opposite direction, flattening the back and floating that bum up off the ground. Really feeling that undulating motion of the spine as it rolls in and out of this arch and flatten. And then allowing those shoulders to become involved in the motion, lifting up towards the sky. With the flatten and pressing down towards the earth below with the arch. Flattening as the bum comes up off the ground. Those shoulders float up towards the sky above. Releasing and going into the arch. Allow the backs of the shoulders to press down towards the earth as the sit bones and the tailbone come down, feeling that arch radiate up the whole spine. Feeling that mini curl in the body. shoulders to grow quiet. And I ask that you take the knees and just drop them a few inches towards the right. And then continue with that slow arch and flatten. And bringing the knees back upright. Allow them to gently drop in the opposite direction a few inches. And begin that long, slow, gentle arching and flattening again. Now let's bring those knees upright again. Let's press through our feet, float the bum up, bring it gently back down. So now before we do the next arch and flatten, we're going to shift our weight. So I'm going to press down with my right hip and allow that left hip to float up towards the sky. So you're going to feel, it's almost going to feel like you have an arch on the left side of your body and a flatten on the right. And from this position, we're going to go in and out of a few arches and flattens. And then shift the weight to the left hip with the right hip coming up a bit. And continue with some arches and flattens on this side. And then release the back again. Press through the feet into a mini bridge and let that bum float back down. Hug the knees to the chest. Roll the back out. And allow those legs to grow nice and long in the body. So with the legs nice and long, again, checking that the chin is slightly below the forehead height so the neck feels nice and long. I'm going to ask you to have your feet maybe a little less than a hip width apart. You want to be able to roll the foot internally and not touch the other foot. So I'm going to ask you to bring your toes upright towards the sky. And then starting with that right foot, I'm going to ask you to very slowly roll the foot away from the other foot towards the outer edge of the mat. And then oh so slowly float it back upright. And then roll that leg internally towards the other leg. And release back upright. And then repeat with the other leg. Now, if you're not sure if you're going slowly enough, you might want to watch how slowly I'm going. As you slow down, you notice more hiccups and jig-jags in the body as the leg rolls back and forth in that hip socket, alternating between the right and the left legs. Really being aware of how this feels as you do slow, mindful movements, allowing the body to tell you how far it wants to move, and listening to that voice. It's an opportunity to love and nurture all of yourself, especially our bodies, which we so often neglect when it comes to movement. In true self-care. And then notice what set you're on and complete that set. And then hug your knees to your chest again, rolling that back out. And then bring your legs back up into easy resting pose. Again, check that the chin is slightly lower than the forehead. Gently press through the feet, floating the bum up and allowing it to come rest gently down on the ground. Check the weight distribution between the heels and the balls of the feet. We're going to do a very easy, gentle psoas release. We're going to take our back and we're going to roll into an arch. And then we're going to draw the attention to the right leg and allow that right leg, that right foot to float up off the ground. And with that knee bent at that angle, we're going to drop that knee in towards the torso just as far as it can go on the body. Pausing there for a moment. And then we're going to coordinate the movement with the long, slow release of both the arch and the foot back down to the ground at the same time. And when they both finally touch, gliding that leg long and rotating externally, and then gliding that heel back up as if it's coming up along the inside of the left leg, back to the point where you can lift that knee back up into easy resting pose. Do another arch and flatten. Going back into the arch. This time bring that left foot off the ground. Left knee dropping in towards the body. Notice if maybe it doesn't go as far, maybe it goes in further. Pausing there for a moment. And then releasing the arch in the lower back. As that left foot comes down, coordinating the movements so that they both release on the ground at the same time. And then that left leg glides nice and long, rotates externally. And then the knee bends, coming out at the side of the body as that foot slides back up and the knee lifts back up into easy resting. Let's repeat. Another arch and flat in between. Then going back into the arch. Once again, the right foot floats off the ground. The knee comes in towards the body. Then the foot and the arch slowly release together towards the ground. And when they're both have landed, allowing the right leg to glide long, rotate externally, and glide that heel back up with the sole facing the left leg. And then bring that knee back upright to easy resting. Arch and flatten. Going back into an arch. Left foot floats off the ground. Knee drops in towards the body. Pause. Release the arch and the foot at the same time. When they both touch, gliding the foot long and rotating the leg externally and gliding that heel up on the mat, bringing the knee back upright into easy resting, arching and flattening the body again. And let's just hug the knees to the chest and release the back. And then bring the feet back down into easy resting pose. Check the weight between the balls and the heels, making them even. Check the position of the chin in relation to the forehead. Press through the feet, float the bum up, and let it come back down, all nice and comfy. So now we're going to begin knee drops. Remember, the opposite, stay on the ground and not come off the ground. Let's allow that right knee to gently begin to drop out just a few inches. Allow it to come back up easily. Allow that left knee to drop out and come back up with ease in the body. And then just alternate back and forth, gradually increasing the length of that knee drop. You find that perfect amount where you're dropping down, but able to still bring that knee back up without too much struggle and without the opposite hip coming up off the ground. You'll definitely feel a small shift in the weight in the back of the hips. And complete the set that you're on. And then bring your feet 2 or 3 inches out wider, maybe to the edge of your mat, so your knees are nice and wide now. And we're going to drop the knees internally towards the opposite knee. We're going to do it 3 times with each knee. You can alternate between the knees, or you can do one side of the body first and then the other. But this time it is especially important, so you don't hurt yourself, to not force it in any way, but just allow the knee to drop internally in a natural way, just as far as it wants to release. Notice any hiccups in the body. And you complete that, you can let your legs grow long for a bit. When your legs are long again, go ahead and scan from the top of the head through the body to the toes, noticing any shifts or changes you may sense from the last time you did this. Also noticing if there's any small adjustments you can make to make your body feel more at ease. back up into easy resting pose, pressing through the feet, floating that bum up and back down onto the mat. Again, checking the weight of the feet, the weight in your feet, making sure they're evenly distributed. Checking that the body is relaxed and the chin is slightly tucked, a little bit lower than that forehead. When you're in this position, it feels very relaxing in the lower back for most people, and at the same point, energizing and active. You really feel it through here and as energy. Now, if you would please drop. I'm going to ask you to bring that right shoulder down to the earth below, as far as the shoulder is able to move, and then release back to neutral. Noticing how just that one movement has altered how the whole shoulder feels in comparison with the left shoulder. Again, drop that shoulder down to the mat below you and release. And repeat a third time and release. Now let's come to the left shoulder. Draw that left shoulder down to the ground below and release 3 times. And coming to the right hip, I want you to press down through the back of the hip into the earth below and allow that to release back to neutral 3 times. Repeat with the left hip 3 times. Then bring the attention up to the back of the head and press down into the ground below and let it release. Again, 3 times. And then press down. It's really with the sacrum to the ground, but it's almost like you're doing a mini arch. Try to press with the sacrum, feeling that arch in the lower spine 3 times. A little less of a roll of the hips and more of an engagement with the back of the hips, creating that arch. And then let's return to the right shoulder. Allow that right shoulder to flow up to the sky and release 3 times. left shoulder, floating up to the sky and releasing 3 times. Now let's float that right hip up to the sky and down 3 times. You're going to feel some pressure in your foot as you float that hip up with the right foot and release. Now if that's a very hard movement for you to find in your body, you can literally drive that movement by just pressing down hard through the foot and you'll feel it rise. But if you're able to, engage the muscles on your own and lift it even higher so that the main movement is driven by the hip and not by the foot. Left hip. Floating the hip up and down. Three times. Now we're going to come back to the head, and we're not going to actually lift the head off the ground. We're going to engage the muscles as if we're lifting it off the ground and begin to make the movement of lifting and then releasing. We're going to do that 3 times. It's a much more subtle movement. While we could be lifting the head up, we don't want to do that without support because we don't want to unnecessarily strain those neck muscles. So just engaging and starting to lift is adequate enough. Now bring the attention down to the tailbone. We're going to actually flatten the spine a little bit, causing that tailbone to lift up and the sky off the ground a bit. You're going to feel it through your heels as well, as if your heels are pushing up. We could go into an actual proper flatten to do that, but if you can, just help that sacrum to lift up off the ground a bit and feel that flatten in the back 3 times. Now coming back to the right shoulder. Let's press down to the mat below and then float that shoulder up towards the sky. Come back down to the mat below. Float that shoulder back up to the sky. And one more time, allow that shoulder to come down to the mat below. And then lift back up to the sky above. Left shoulder, press down to the earth below and release. Allowing that shoulder to sail up towards the sky above and releasing back, back, back down to the earth below. floating up to the sky above. Three times. Right hip pressing down to the earth below, and then floating to the sky above. Three times. Shift to the left hip, pressing down to the earth below, and floating up to the sky above. Three times. And coming back to our head, we're going to press that head down into the earth below, and then engage those muscles as if we're lifting our head, but not quite lifting it. Three times. Now to the end of the spine, press that sacrum down on the ground, and then float up to the sky. You're going to feel a little arching and flattening in the spine as you do this. All right, pause. Get ready. Let's regroup. Now we're going to combine these movements. Left hip, right shoulder. Allow both the left hip and the right shoulder to sink down into the ground, feeling an arch radiating between these 2 points of the body. Releasing together back to neutral in the back of the body. And then floating that left hip up and that right shoulder up towards the sky at the same time. And releasing back to neutral. We're going to repeat, pressing them both down, releasing, and floating up. Three times. Left hip, right shoulder, pressing down together, feeling the arch radiating from the right hip to the left shoulder, releasing, floating the left shoulder and the right hip up off the ground, noticing how you're flattening across the back of the body from the shoulder to the hip. And repeating that 2 more times on your own. We'll draw that tension to the back of the head and the bottom of the spine. Let's press the sacrum and the head down together, feeling the whole spine arch. And then let's release. Engage the head muscle as if we're lifting. Feeling that tailbone come up off the ground, the sacrum lift a bit, and the spine flatten. And repeat 2 more times. Okay, last thing we're going to do here. This is quite a challenge, which you may not quite be up for yet, and that's okay. But just try to visualize how it would work if you were able to do it. Let's press the right shoulder and the right hip into the ground, feeling that arch. Then float that left shoulder and the right hip up off the ground. And then release them at the same time, back to neutral. And then press the left shoulder and right hip down as the left hip and the right shoulder go back up towards the sky. And release. And let's repeat that one more time. Left shoulder floats up with the right hip floating up. Right shoulder. Release. And left shoulder and right hip press down to the ground as the left hip and the right shoulder float up to the sky. And again, release. You may want to take a pause here, hug your knees to the chest before we continue. All right, back to easy resting pose. Now, we're going to create a walking pattern a little bit in our bodies as we're laying on the ground. It's drawing the attention to the right hip. I want you to pull the hip, pressing down on the ground, up towards the armpit. This makes the side of the body a little bit shorter right here, the C curve on the right side. Then bring that hip up towards the sky and let it come back down to its neutral position. Then once again, press down to the back of the right hip. Slide that right hip up towards the armpit. Pressing through the foot, float that hip up to the sky so you're still curved on the side of the body. And then let that hip release back down and come back down on the ground. Come over to the left side. Press through the left foot, floating the hip up off the ground. Draw that hip up towards the armpit. Now bring that hip down towards the ground below. And draw that hip back down to neutral. Once again, press through the foot, float the hip up towards the sky. Then pull that hip up towards the armpit. Release the hip back down. And then let that hip come back down to neutral. Hug the knees to the chest one more time. Allow the legs to grow nice. And then roll over on your right side and press yourself back upright. And come to a standing position on your mat. And from this standing position, we're going to find our true mountain. So we don't want our feet together. We don't want them wide apart. We want them approximately hip width apart. We don't want those knees locked like mine are right now. We want them soft so they feel at ease. Now in this position, it should actually feel almost like a tail is growing out the lower part of your tailbone. So it's almost like an extra support coming down. So you feel really nice and stable, but relaxed in the shoulders, relaxed in the body. And then in this position, you want to chicken on your hips. You don't want them tilted like that with an arch in the back. You don't want to be tipped forward. If you had a pot of gold here, you want to be holding all those coins in. You want those hips to be nice and neutral. If you had rings of Saturn around them, they'd be nice and even. This is your true mountain. And in this position, we're going to find those creases at the tops of our legs and trying to keep our spine as straight as possible. I want you just to fold forward, remembering not to lock the knees. Trying to keep that back straight just as far as you can in the body. You can let your hands slide down the legs, giving you some support. And when you reach that limit with your straight back, let yourself lift back up out of it. And repeat. All right. Now, from your mountain position, we're going to take one leg, pick whichever one you want. Start with the side that you feel more balanced on for the first one and step forward in that position. Notice how it feels. Maybe it's too far. I want you to step in and out of there a few times, maybe going a little wider, until you feel that your pelvis, your hips are neutral, not tipped forward, not pulled back, but nice and centered. When you get that position, I'm not telling you to take your feet nice and wide. I want you to find where you're steady and you're stable. And then I want you to bend the knee over the ankle. not over the front towards the toes, putting strain on it on the knee, but just so it's gently bent. Now, from this position, we're in Warrior One with our arms down. This could be enough for you to stand in. You could bring the hands up into prayer arms. You could open the arms and just surrender arms. Or you could lift the arms up overhead, and if your body feels stable enough, allow the head to roll up and look up at the sky above. Just pick your arm position. Just be steady in that, or experiment. See which works best. Then let's step out. Switch sides. And again, step in and out until you find that place where you feel steady and stable, where your hips feel neutral. And you feel like if you went any wider, you'd feel like your hips were going into a tilt. We don't want that to happen. When you get to that point, again, bend the knee so it's over the ankle. And then play with those arm positions again. The arms can stay down to the sides. The hands can be together in front of the chest in prayer position. Maybe you prefer surrender arms. Or maybe you like the arms in the more traditional form of the pose, up towards the sky with the head tipped back. But just do what feels right in your body today. Ask your body what it needs and listen to that. Excuse me. Then step out of that. And now it would be time for us to come back down onto the mat. So if you would just lie long on the mat at first, notice any shifts or changes in your body from the beginning of the practice till now. Again, scanning from the top of the head down through the body to the bottoms of the feet. And now, if you'd like, you can prop yourself however you want for this final relaxation. Maybe a pillow underneath the knees, maybe a blanket under the bum, maybe an eye mask on or a pillow under the head. Possibly all of that. Allow that blanket to come and cover the whole body. Just get settled in. And bring your awareness to the breath at the belly as you gently watch your breath breathe the body, releasing any need to control the breath. Simply allowing the breath to breathe the body. You may be aware of the nourishment entering the body with each inhalation and the cleansing of the body as the breath leaves the body. Now rest your awareness at the forehead, softening the forehead so it's as smooth as silk. Soften the eyebrows, the eyelids, allowing the eyes to sink deep into their sockets. Soften the cheeks, the jaw. Allow the tongue to rest gently in the mouth. Soften the neck. Let the shoulders melt down into the floor And follow this melting sensation down through the arms and the hands and the fingers. Bring your awareness to the heart center in the center of the chest and be aware of the heart muscle itself beating steadfastly. Allow this action to be easy and effortless, inviting the heart's muscle itself to be soft. Travel to the bottom of the rib cage just under the heart, the area of the diaphragm. Allow the diaphragm muscle to be soft, bringing an even easier and softer breath. Travel down to the belly, inviting all the organs inside the abdominal cavity to be soft as they carry out their various functions in ease and harmony. Bring the softness down into the hips, inviting ease deep into the hip sockets, experiencing a melting and a gentle opening of the hips from deep within. Let this melting flow down into the large muscles of the upper legs, down through the knees and the lower legs, and into the feet and the toes. See your entire body letting go and sinking deeper into the floor, surrendering to the subtle pull of gravity, as if you're being tenderly held by the earth. Let a sense of warmth and heaviness in the muscles continue to sink you deeper into letting go. Trust and release. Being aware of the places the back of the body's touching the ground and inviting the front of the body to sink into the back. The muscles warm and heavy, surrendering to gravity in the arms of the earth. Begin to follow the breath through the body, exhaling down to the soles of the feet and inhaling to the crown of the head, being aware of muscles, organs, tissues, veins, bones as you move with the breath through the body. And the next time your breath passes through your belly, allow your awareness to rest at the belly, watching the breath breathe the body. And then allowing your toes and your fingers to wiggle, rolling on your ankles and your wrists. Hug your knees to your chest and let your back stretch nice and long and your arms out anywhere they want to. Hugging your knees to your chest again. Roll onto your left side. Take a couple of breaths and push yourself back upright into a seated position. May all beings find happiness. May all be free of disease. May all see what is auspicious, and may no one suffer. May you be at peace. May your heart remain open. May you awaken to the light of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all beings. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. Thanks for practicing. I'm going to invite you to mindfully stand up now and transition into your day by quietly focusing and centering on the body and the movement of the legs and the hips now as you walk back out into your day and into your life. Thank you.